The Galactic Council chamber fell silent when Ambassador Zixrath entered with the news. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep distress among his species. The representatives from 100 worlds watched as he made his way to the central platform. "The Korthax Dominion has invaded Sector 7, he announced. "They have taken 12 colonies in the past cycle, their fleet numbers in the thousands." Murmurs spread through the chamber like waves on water. The Korthax were known throughout the galaxy as conquerors. They stood 3 meters tall, covered in natural armor plates, and they felt no pain. Their soldiers were bred for war from birth. No species had ever defeated them in ground combat. High Counselor Velmara raised one of her tentacles for silence. "We must form a defense coalition immediately. Which species will send their warriors?" The chamber erupted into arguments. The Silthians offered their defensive shields but no soldiers. The Grexnon would provide ships but refused to land troops. One by one, species made excuses. The Korthax reputation was too strong. Their own people would not fight. "What about the humans?" asked a small voice from the back. The chamber went quiet again. Every species turned to look at Ambassador Chen Wei, the human representative who sat in the corner. She was small by galactic standards, barely reaching the chest of most other ambassadors. Her skin was soft, her bones fragile, and she had no natural weapons at all. High Counselor Velmara's expression shifted to something like pity. "Ambassador Chen, we appreciate your presence on the council, but surely you understand. The Korthax are the most dangerous ground fighters in the galaxy. Your species is delicate." Chen Wei stood up slowly. A small smile appeared on her face. "High Counselor, with respect, I do not think you understand my species at all." "We have read your planetary data," said Ambassador Zixrath. "Earth is a death world. We know this. But surviving a dangerous planet does not make a species capable of warfare against the Korthax." "A death world," Chen Wei repeated. "Yes, that is what you call our home. Let me tell you what that means." She walked to the center of the chamber, her boots clicking on the crystal floor. "Our planet has a surface covered mostly in a substance that will kill most galactic species within minutes if they swallow it. We call it water. We drink it every day." Several ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. The Velcorians in particular looked disturbed, as water was highly toxic to their silicon-based biology. "Our atmosphere contains a highly reactive gas that causes oxidation and decay. We breathe it to survive. Our sun bombards us with radiation that damages genetic material. We go outside in it for fun." "Ambassador Chen," High Counselor Velmara interrupted, "we are aware that your planet is hostile, but the Korthax are armored. They feel no pain. What could humans possibly?" "I am not finished," Chen Wei said. Her voice was calm but firm. "On Earth, we share our planet with millions of other species. Many of them can kill us. We have creatures with venom that can stop a heart in seconds. We have predators that can tear us apart with their claws. We have tiny organisms that have killed more humans than all wars combined." She paused, letting the words sink in. "And yet we survived. We did more than survive. We conquered our planet. We climbed to the top of the food chain and stayed there." "How?" asked a young Grexnon delegate. His voice held genuine curiosity. Chen Wei turned to face him. "We evolved to be persistent. Our bodies can recover from injuries that would kill most species. We can lose limbs and keep fighting. We can function with organs failing. We do not give up." "But the Korthax armor," someone started. "The Korthax armor is impressive," Chen Wei agreed. "They evolved to withstand their own world. Natural plates of dense material, resistant to blunt force and cutting edges. But High Counselor, how long have the Korthax been fighting with their natural weapons?" Velmara consulted her data pad. "Their recorded military history goes back approximately 15,000 of your years. And in that time, Has any species developed weapons specifically designed to defeat their armor? No, all species that have faced them have been defeated before such weapons could be developed. Chen Wei smiled again. Humans have been developing weapons to kill each other for over 10,000 years. We have spent our entire history finding new and creative ways to end lives. Armor. We have defeated armor. We have defeated thick walls. We have defeated natural defenses of every kind. She pulled out a small device from her pocket and projected a hologram into the air. It showed a human soldier in full combat gear. This is what our warriors look like now. That suit can withstand extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres, and high pressure. The weapons they carry can punch through 10 centimeters of reinforced steel at 500 meters. But the Korthax feel no pain, Ambassador Zixrath said. They will keep fighting even when injured. So will we, Chen Wei replied. We call it adrenaline. When our bodies are in danger, we release chemicals that suppress pain and increase our physical abilities. Our soldiers train to fight through injuries. They train to continue their mission even when their bodies are damaged. The chamber was completely silent now. Every representative watched the small human woman with new eyes. There is one more thing you should know about humans, Chen Wei said. We form bonds, deep, unbreakable bonds, with our families, our friends, our fellow soldiers. When someone threatens the people we love, we become dangerous in ways that are difficult to describe. She looked around the chamber. The Korthax have invaded 12 colonies. How many of those colonies have humans living there? High Counselor Velmara checked her data again. 3 of them have small human populations. Then the Korthax have made a mistake, Chen Wei said. They have taken our people, our families, our friends. Her eyes grew hard. The United Earth military will respond. We will send our warriors. How many? Asked Vilmara. As many as it takes. 3 standard days later, the first human ships arrived at the staging area. The other species in the coalition watched with a mixture of curiosity and doubt as the vessels came out of faster-than-light travel. The human ships were not the largest or the most elegant, but there were many of them. 200 vessels ranging from massive carriers to small, fast attack craft. General Marcus Stone stood on the bridge of the carrier, unconquered, and watched the display screens. His face was weathered from years of service, and his eyes held the calm focus of someone who had seen combat many times. General, said his aide, Lieutenant Sarah Park, the coalition representatives are requesting a meeting before the operation begins. Of course they are, Stone muttered. They want to see what they're working with, set it up for 1800 hours. The meeting took place in the main hangar of the Unconquered, which had been cleared of most equipment to make room for the alien delegates. General Stone stood at a simple podium, while representatives from 15 species filled the space before him. Gentle beings, he began, I understand you have questions about our capabilities. Let me answer them directly. He gestured, and a squad of human soldiers marched into the hangar. They wore full combat armor, their faces hidden behind dark visors. Each one carried a weapon that looked heavy and dangerous. These are Marines from the 3rd Division, Stone said. They will be leading the ground assault on the first occupied colony, Theta Station. A Silthian delegate raised a limb. General Stone, our intelligence indicates that Theta Station is defended by 5,000 Korthax soldiers. How many humans do you intend to send? 2,000. Shocked murmurs spread through the crowd. That is less than half their number, the Silthian said. How can you possibly? Because we do not fight fair, Stone said simply. Fair fighting is for competitions. This is war. He brought up a tactical display. Before our ground forces land, we will bomb their command centers, supply depots, and communication arrays. We will cut off their leaders from their troops. We will destroy their food and their equipment. And then, when they are confused and hungry and unable to coordinate, we will attack. That seems, Dishonorable, said a Grexnon officer. General Stone turned to face him directly. Let me ask you something. In your culture, what is the purpose of war? To test the strength of warriors, to prove which species is superior. In human culture, the purpose of war is to win, not to prove ourselves, not to show how brave we are, to win, to protect our people and destroy the enemy's ability to threaten them. Stone's voice was cold. Honor is for peacetime. In war, the only thing that matters is bringing your soldiers home alive and completing the mission. The alien delegates exchanged glances. This was not the philosophy of war they were used to hearing. Now, Stone continued, would any of you like to see a demonstration of what our weapons can do to Korthak's armor? The firing range on the Unconquered had been specially prepared for the demonstration. At one end stood the alien delegates, protected behind a heavy transparent barrier. At the other end, 50 meters away, hung a piece of Korthak's armor plate. It had been taken from a fallen warrior in a previous encounter and was considered one of the hardest natural materials in the known galaxy. Master Sergeant Yuki Tanaka stepped forward with her rifle. She was not tall, even by human standards, but her movements were precise and confident. She raised the weapon to her shoulder. This is the M7 penetrator, General Stone explained through the speaker system. It fires a tungsten carbide core projectile at hypersonic velocity, designed specifically for hard targets. Tanaka squeezed the trigger. The sound was sharp and loud, but what caught everyone's attention was the result. The Korthak's armor plate had a clean hole punched through its center. The edges of the hole glowed red from the heat of the impact. Silence filled the observation area. One more demonstration, Stone said. A second piece of armor was brought out, this one mounted on a target frame that roughly approximated the shape of a Korthak's warrior. Private First Class Diego Martinez approached with a different weapon, this one larger and heavier. The M12 is for situations where the M7 is not sufficient, Stone explained. It uses a shaped plasma charge. Martinez fired. There was a flash of white light, and when the delegates could see again, the target frame was empty. The armor had been completely destroyed, nothing left but scattered pieces of melted material. The Korthaks feel no pain, General Stone said into the stunned silence. But they can still die, and we are very good at killing things. Ambassador Zixrath, who had come aboard with the other delegates, approached the general after the demonstration. General Stone, I must confess something. When your ambassador spoke to the council, I did not believe her. I thought she was exaggerating to gain support for her species. And now I think she may have been modest. Stone allowed himself a small smile. Ambassador, you have not seen anything yet. The assault on Theta Station began 36 hours later. True to his word, General Stone did not attack fairly. In the hours before dawn on the colony's artificial day cycle, human bombers struck the Korthak's positions. They targeted exactly what Stone had promised: command centers, communication arrays, supply depots. The Korthaks were thrown into confusion. Their fleet in orbit tried to respond, but they found themselves facing human warships that had been hiding in the shadow of a nearby moon. The battle above the planet was fierce but short. Human tactical computers calculated firing solutions faster than Korthak's commanders could issue orders. Human missiles struck with pinpoint accuracy. On the ground, the landing craft came down through the smoke and fire. 2,000 Marines poured out onto the colony's surface, moving in coordinated squads. They did not charge headlong into battle. Instead, they used the terrain, the buildings, every piece of cover available. Korthak's commander Grathnak watched the assault from what remained of his command post. He had fought in many campaigns and had never seen warfare like this. The humans did not behave like other species. They did not stand in formations and fight directly. They moved like shadows, appearing from unexpected directions, striking, and then vanishing. Commander, one of his officers reported. "We have lost contact with Third Company." "How?" "Unknown. They reported engaging a small human unit and then nothing." Grathnak studied the tactical display. Red markers showing Korthak's positions were disappearing one by one. The humans were cutting his army apart like a surgeon with a knife, taking pieces away bit by bit. "Order all units to form a defensive perimeter around the main settlement," he commanded. "We will make them come to us." It was the worst decision he could have made. Captain Elena Rodriguez led her company through the maintenance tunnels beneath the colony. According to the pre-war maps that human intelligence had obtained, these tunnels connected to the basement of the main administration building, right in the center of the Korthak's defensive position. "Quiet now," she whispered through her helmet communicator. "Thermal scans show at least 200 enemy fighters above us." Her Marines moved in silence, their boots designed to muffle sound. When they reached the basement access point, Rodriguez held up her fist to signal a stop. "Charges set," reported Sergeant Chen, no relation to the ambassador, as he finished placing explosives on the ceiling above them. "All units report ready," Rodriguez said. One by one, her squad leaders confirmed. 80 Marines, about to emerge into the middle of a much larger enemy force. "Remember your training," Rodriguez said. "Fast, violent, and overwhelming. Give them no time to think." She keyed the detonator. The explosion tore a hole in the floor of the building above. Before the dust had settled, Marines were pouring through, weapons firing. The Korthak's defenders, who had been watching the approaches to their position, suddenly found themselves fighting enemies who had appeared in their midst. Private James Washington was the first through the hole. He was 19 years old, from a small town in Arkansas, and this was his first real combat. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. A Korthak's warrior turned toward him, its massive arms reaching out to grab him. Time seemed to slow down. Washington saw the alien's natural armor, the claws that could tear through metal, the small dark eyes that showed no fear. He raised his rifle and fired 3 times into the creature's chest. The Korthaks fell. Washington kept moving. All around him, the same scene played out dozens of times. Marines emerged from the explosion, identified targets, and fired with deadly accuracy. The Korthaks tried to fight back, but they were designed for different warfare. They expected enemies to face them in the open, to rely on strength and courage. They did not expect grenades thrown from cover, sniper fire from elevated positions, or coordinated attacks from multiple directions at once. Commander Grathnak realized too late that he had been outmaneuvered. The humans attacking his outer defenses had been a distraction. The real assault had come from below. He drew his traditional blade, a weapon passed down through generations of his family. If he was going to die, he would die fighting. A human appeared before him, smaller than he had expected. The human raised its weapon, but Grathnak was faster. He knocked the rifle aside and swung his blade in a killing arc. The human ducked under the swing and did something completely unexpected. It stepped closer, inside the range of the blade, and struck Grathnak in the knee joint with a short, heavy object. Pain exploded through the commander's leg, pain like he had never felt before. The Korthaks feel no pain, he had been told all his life, but that was a lie. Their natural armor protected their vital organs, but the joints where the plates met were vulnerable. The human had known this. Grathnak fell to one knee. The human stepped back and retrieved its rifle, pointing it at his head. "Surrender," the human said. "Order your troops to stand down." Grathnak looked into the dark visor of the human's helmet. He could not see the face behind it, but he could feel the determination. This creature would not hesitate to kill him, but something else was there too, something that surprised him. "You could kill me now," Grathnak said. "Why offer surrender?" "Because this battle is already over," the human replied. Your soldiers can die fighting or they can surrender and live. That is their choice. I am giving you the chance to let them choose." Grathnak considered this. The Korthax way was to fight until death. Surrender was not supposed to be an option. But as he looked around at the bodies of his warriors, at the humans who had taken control of his command center in mere minutes, he understood something. The old ways would not work against these creatures. He opened a communication channel to his remaining troops. "All Korthax units, this is Commander Grathnak. Lay down your weapons. The battle is lost." The fighting stopped within minutes. Across Theta Station, Korthax warriors stood down, dropping their weapons in confusion and disbelief. No enemy had ever defeated them so completely, so quickly. When the final count was made, the humans had lost 43 soldiers. The Korthax had lost over 2,000, with another 2,000 taken prisoner. The remaining survivors had fled into the wilderness outside the colony. Captain Rodriguez removed her helmet as she walked through the liberated colony. Civilian survivors were emerging from shelters, many of them crying with relief. Among them were the human colonists who had been captured by the Korthax. An old woman approached her, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she said. "We thought no one would come. We thought we were going to die here." Rodriguez put a hand on the woman's shoulder. "We do not leave our people behind," she said, "ever." News of the victory at Theta Station spread across the galaxy faster than light. The Galactic Council received reports that seemed impossible. A human force, outnumbered more than 2 to 1, had defeated Korthax warriors in ground combat. It had taken them less than 6 hours. High Counselor Velmara read the reports 3 times before she could believe them. She called an emergency session of the council. "It seems," she said to the assembled representatives, "that we have greatly underestimated our human allies." The news of Theta Station reached the Korthax homeworld within days. Supreme Commander Vexthal listened to the reports with growing fury. His species had not lost a ground battle in over 3,000 years. Now, a species that most Korthax had never even heard of had defeated them utterly. "Show me everything we know about these humans," he ordered his intelligence officers. What they found disturbed him deeply. The humans came from a planet that made even the Korthax homeworld look mild by comparison. Their evolutionary history was written in violence. They had fought wars among themselves for thousands of years, developing weapons of increasing power. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and natural disasters that would have destroyed most civilizations. "And these are the creatures we decided to attack," Vexthal said quietly. "Supreme Commander, we still have the numerical advantage," said one of his advisors. "We have 1,000 ships, they have 200. "Numbers mean nothing if we cannot bring them to bear," Vexthal replied. "These humans do not fight the way other species fight. They use deception, surprise, and technology we have never seen before." He made a decision that would have been unthinkable just days ago. "Send a message to the human commander. Tell him I wish to negotiate." General Stone received the message with surprise. He had expected the Korthax to double down, to send more troops to escalate the conflict. Instead, they wanted to talk. "It could be a trap," Lieutenant Park observed. "It could be," Stone agreed. "But if there is a chance to end this without more bloodshed, we should take it." The meeting was arranged on a neutral station at the edge of the contested sector. General Stone arrived with a small security detail, as did Supreme Commander Vexthal. The 2 leaders faced each other across a plain metal table. Vexthal was massive, nearly 4 meters tall, his natural armor plates gleaming in the artificial light. Stone was a third his size, weathered and calm. To an outside observer, it would have seemed like a meeting between a predator and its prey. But Vexthal knew better now. "General Stone," he began, "I will speak plainly. My species has never been defeated in ground combat before your attack on Theta Station. We do not know how to process this. Your warriors fought bravely, Stone said, but bravery alone does not win battles. No, I see that now. Vexthel leaned forward. I have studied your species since the battle. I have learned things that concern me. Such as your history, the wars you have fought among yourselves, the weapons you have created. Vexthel's voice dropped lower. We believe we are the greatest warriors in the galaxy because we feel no pain, because our bodies are armored. But you have spent thousands of years finding ways to kill things that are stronger and faster than you. You have made killing an art form. Stone said nothing, waiting for the Korthax commander to continue. I want to understand, Vexthel said. How do you do it? How do creatures so fragile become so dangerous? Stone considered the question carefully. We adapt, he said finally. When we face a challenge, we do not try to overcome it through strength alone. We think, we plan, we find weaknesses and exploit them. But your soldiers, they charge into battle knowing they might die. Your Captain Rodriguez led 80 warriors against 200 of mine. How is that not strength? It is a different kind of strength, Stone replied. Humans do not fight because we want to die. We fight because there are things worth dying for. Our families, our friends, our homes. When you threaten those things, you will find that humans can do remarkable things. Vexthel sat back thinking, and if we had not threatened your colonies, if we had left your people alone, then we probably would have tried diplomacy first, Stone admitted. Humans prefer peace when it is possible. War is expensive in lives and resources. We would rather trade with you than fight you. But now that we have fought, now you have shown us that you are willing to attack and enslave innocent people. That makes you a threat, and humans do not ignore threats. The negotiation continued for several hours. In the end, an agreement was reached. The Korthax would withdraw from all occupied territories. They would return all prisoners and pay reparations to the affected colonies. In exchange, the humans would not pursue them to their home systems. This feels like defeat, Vexthel said as he prepared to leave. It is, Stone agreed. But it does not have to be the end. You can learn from this. Your species can grow. Or we can rebuild our forces and attack again. Stone met the alien commander's eyes without flinching. You could try, but I would not recommend it. The liberation of the remaining colonies proceeded smoothly. With the Korthax in retreat, the human forces moved from system to system, freeing the captured populations. Each battle was shorter than the last, as the Korthax commanders had heard what happened at Theta Station and were not eager to repeat the experience. On the colony world of New Geneva, Master Sergeant Tanaka led her squad through the streets of the main city. The Korthax garrison had surrendered without a fight, but there were still pockets of resistance from those who refused to accept defeat. Movement ahead, reported Private Chenwei, the sniper of the squad. Looks like 3 hostiles in that building. Can you take them? Easy. But before Chen could fire, a young Korthax warrior emerged from the building. He was smaller than the adults, obviously not fully grown, and he carried no weapon. His hands were raised above his head. Hold fire, Tanaka ordered. The young Korthax approached them slowly. Please, he said in broken galactic common. My father and brothers are inside. They want to surrender, but they are afraid you will kill them. Tanaka lowered her weapon. Tell them to come out with their hands up. If they do not attack, we will not harm them. The young alien hesitated. They say that all species lie about surrender, that they pretend to accept it, then kill the prisoners. That is not how humans do things, Tanaka said. When we accept a surrender, we honor it. Why, we are your enemies. Tanaka removed her helmet so the young alien could see her face. Because killing people who have surrendered is wrong. It does not matter if they were our enemies. If they stop fighting, we stop too. The young Korthax stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned and called something in his own language. 3 adult Korthax emerged from the building, moving slowly, their hands raised. "You keep your word," the largest of them said as Tanaka's squad secured them. "Our commanders said you would not." "Your commanders were wrong about a lot of things," Tanaka replied. "Maybe it is time to stop listening to them." Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council watched the human campaign with amazement. Species that had spent centuries fearing the Korthax were now seeing them defeated by a species that had been considered weak and unimportant just months ago. "We must reconsider our understanding of what makes a species powerful," High Counselor Velmara said during a council session. "The humans have shown us that physical strength and natural weapons are not everything." "What do they have that we do not?" asked a Sylthian delegate. Ambassador Chen Wei stood to answer. "Adaptability, creativity, persistence, and perhaps most importantly, unity. When humans face a common threat, we put aside our differences and work together." "But you fight among yourselves constantly," another delegate pointed out. "Your history is full of wars between human nations." "Yes," Chen Wei agreed. "We are not perfect, but when something threatens all of us, we find common ground. It is one of our greatest strengths and one of our greatest weaknesses." "I do not understand," the delegate said. "How can it be both?" Chen Wei smiled. "It means we are always ready for conflict, but we prefer cooperation. It means we have practiced warfare for thousands of years, but we never stop hopping for peace. We are complicated." The final colony to be liberated was Anchor Point, a mining world near the edge of Korthax-controlled space. Intelligence reports indicated that this colony was being used as a staging area for a possible counterattack. If the humans were going to face serious resistance anywhere, it would be here. General Stone assembled his officers for a final briefing. The holographic display showed the colony's layout, the defensive positions, and the estimated enemy strength. "They have learned from their mistakes," Stone said. "The Korthax here have fortified their positions against underground assault. They have deployed sensors to detect our movements, and they have brought in their elite guards, warriors who have never lost a battle." Captain Rodriguez studied the display. "They are expecting us to repeat our previous tactics." "Exactly, which is why we are not going to use them." Stone pulled up a new image, showing a schematic of the colony's power grid. Anchor Point depends on a central fusion reactor for its energy. Without power, their shields fail, their sensors go dark, and their communications stop working. "You want to attack the reactor?" asked Lieutenant Park. "No, I want to take it, intact." Stone pointed to a small structure on the edge of the colony. "This is the backup control station for the reactor. It is lightly defended because the Korthax do not think we know about it." "How did we find it?" Rodriguez asked. One of the liberated prisoners was an engineer who worked on the colony before the invasion. He remembered the layout. Stone allowed himself a small smile. "The Korthax made a mistake when they enslaved the local population instead of eliminating them. Those people remember everything, and they are eager to help us." The assault on Anchor Point began in complete darkness. A small team of specialists approached the backup control station through the rocky terrain surrounding the colony. They moved without lights, using night vision equipment to navigate. Master Sergeant Tanaka led the team. Her orders were simple: take the control station, access the reactor controls, and shut down power to the main defensive positions. She had 12 soldiers with her, each chosen for their specific skills. The control station was guarded by only 6 Korthax warriors, a number that would have been intimidating to most species. But Tanaka's team was not most species. "Sniper team, take positions," she whispered into her communicator. 2 of her soldiers moved to elevated positions with clear lines of sight to the station entrance. They set up their rifles with practiced efficiency. "Ready," came the reply. "Fire on my command. Targets are the 2 guards at the main door and the one on the roof. 3, 2, 1, mark. 3 shots rang out in quick succession. 3 Korthax fell. Move! The rest of the team sprinted toward the station. The remaining guards, alerted by the sound of gunfire, emerged from the building. But they were too slow, their reactions dulled by surprise and confusion. Tanaka's soldiers cut them down before they could mount any defense. Station secure, Tanaka reported, moving to the control room. The control room was empty except for automated systems and the engineer who had volunteered to accompany the team. Dr. Marcus Webb was a civilian, middle-aged and soft from years of desk work, but his knowledge of the colony's systems made him invaluable. "Give me 2 minutes," he said, fingers already moving over the controls. "I can redirect power flow from here. When I am done, the main defenses will be blind and their shields will be down." "Do it," Tanaka said. "Everyone else, secure the perimeter. We need to hold this position until the main assault begins." Across the colony, the Korthax defensive commander received reports that made no sense. "Power fluctuations. What do you mean, power fluctuations?" "The grid is becoming unstable, Commander," his engineer reported. "Someone has accessed the secondary control station and is manipulating the flow." "Impossible. That station is defended." "Not anymore, Commander. We have lost contact with the guards there." Before the commander could respond, the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, bathing the room in dim red illumination, but the tactical displays were dead, the communication systems offline. In the darkness that followed, the human assault began. The battle for Anchor Point was fierce but short. Without their sensors and shields, the Korthax were fighting blind against an enemy that could see them clearly. Human soldiers poured into the colony from multiple entry points, their night vision equipment giving them a decisive advantage. The elite Korthax guards fought with the skill and ferocity their reputation promised. They were faster and stronger than the regular warriors, trained from birth for combat, but even they could not overcome the systematic tactics of the human forces. Private Washington found himself facing one of these elite guards in the corridors of the main administrative building. The alien was enormous, its armor covered in the marks of many battles. It carried a weapon that looked like a combination of an axe and a rifle. Washington's first instinct was to freeze, to let fear take over, but his training was stronger than his fear. He moved without thinking, ducking into a doorway as the guard fired. The shot blew apart the wall next to him, showering him with debris. He tossed a flashbang grenade around the corner. Even in the dim emergency lighting, the burst of light and sound disoriented the Korthax guard for a crucial moment. Washington stepped out and fired a full burst into the alien's chest. The guard staggered but did not fall. Its armor had absorbed most of the damage. It raised its weapon again, aiming directly at Washington. Another shot rang out from behind Washington, then another, and another. The guard's armor began to crack and splinter as multiple shooters targeted the same spot. Finally, the elite warrior fell. Sergeant Chen appeared at Washington's side. "You okay, kid?" Washington nodded, his heart still pounding. "I thought I had him." "You did have him, you just needed some help finishing the job." Chen clapped him on the shoulder. "That is what squads are for. Nobody fights alone." By morning, the colony was secured. The Korthax commander had been captured along with most of his forces. Those who had escaped into the surrounding wilderness were being tracked by drones and would be found soon enough. General Stone walked through the captured command center, surveying the aftermath. Captain Rodriguez met him with a report. "Casualties are lower than expected," she said. 28 dead, 62 wounded. The enemy lost over 300 with another 500 taken prisoner. And the civilian population? Alive. The Korthax kept them as workers in the mines. They are malnourished and some need medical attention, but they will recover. Stone nodded. Every life saved was a victory beyond the tactical one. Make sure they get everything they need, and set up communications with the Council. They will want to know that the campaign is over. The message reached the Galactic Council within hours. High Counselor Velmara read it to the assembled representatives with something approaching awe in her voice. All 12 occupied colonies have been liberated. Korthak's forces have been expelled from Council space. Human casualties total 137 across all engagements. Korthak's losses are estimated at over 8,000. The chamber was silent. The number seemed impossible. The most feared warriors in the galaxy had been defeated by a species that many had considered too weak to fight. How? Asked someone in the back of the chamber. How did they do it? Ambassador Chen Wei stood to answer. We adapted, we planned, we worked together, and we refused to give up. She looked around the chamber at the gathered representatives. That is what humans do. When we face a challenge, we find a way to overcome it. It does not matter how strong the enemy is or how difficult the task seems. We keep trying until we succeed. And if you do not succeed, then we learn from our failure and try again, Chen Wei said. Humans are stubborn that way. 1 year after the end of the Korthak's War, the Galactic Council held a special assembly to honor the heroes of the campaign. Representatives from every member species gathered in the Great Chamber, along with military leaders, diplomats, and civilians who had played a part in the liberation. General Marcus Stone stood at the center of the platform, uncomfortable in his dress uniform. He had never liked ceremonies, preferring the honest work of training soldiers and planning operations. But Ambassador Chen had insisted that this was important, not just for humans but for the entire galaxy. High Counselor Velmara addressed the assembly. 1 year ago, our galaxy faced a crisis. The Korthak's dominion had invaded peaceful colonies, enslaved innocent people, and threatened the stability we had worked so hard to build. Many species were afraid to act. We believed that the Korthaks were unbeatable. She turned to look at the human delegation. And then the humans came. A species we had underestimated, a species we had considered too fragile for warfare. They showed us how wrong we were. The holographic displays around the chamber lit up with images from the campaign. The assault on Theta Station, the liberation of New Geneva, the final battle at Anchor Point. Each image told a story of courage, sacrifice, and determination. The humans taught us something important, Velmara continued. Strength is not just about physical power or natural weapons. True strength comes from the heart, from the bonds we form with others, from the willingness to fight for what we believe in. She presented General Stone with a medal, the highest honor the council could give. He accepted it with a brief nod, then stepped forward to speak. High Counselor, members of the council, thank you for this recognition, but I want to make something clear. He looked out at the assembled crowd. The humans did not win this war alone. We fought alongside brave individuals from many species, engineers who kept our ships running, medics who healed our wounded, civilians who provided information and support. He gestured to Dr. Marcus Webb, who stood in the crowd with the other civilian heroes. Without Dr. Webb's knowledge of the anchor point systems, that battle would have been much more costly. Without the cooperation of the liberated populations, we would have fought blind. This was not a human victory, Stone said. It was a victory for everyone who believes that freedom is worth fighting for. The Korthaks thought they could conquer us because we are different, because we do not look like them or think like them. They were wrong. Our differences make us stronger, not weaker. The chamber erupted in applause, the sound echoing off the crystal walls. After the ceremony, a reception was held in the gardens adjacent to the council chamber. General Stone found himself surrounded by representatives from dozens of species, all eager to speak with the human commander who had defeated the unbeatable Korthaks. Eventually, he managed to escape to a quiet corner where Ambassador Chen was waiting with a glass of something that looked like wine. "You did well up there," she said. "The part about cooperation was a nice touch." "It was not a touch, I meant it." "I know you did, that is why it worked." She handed him the glass. "There is someone who wants to meet you." Stone looked up to see a massive figure approaching. It was Supreme Commander Vexthal of the Korthax Dominion, the same leader he had negotiated with a year ago. But something was different about him. He walked slower, more carefully, and his eyes held a thoughtfulness that had not been there before. "General Stone," Vexthal said, "I hoped I would find you here." Stone stood and faced him directly. "Supreme Commander, I did not expect to see you at a council event." "Neither did many of my own people." Vexthal made a sound that might have been a chuckle. "But things have changed since our war. I have spent the past year thinking about what happened, about what it means." "And what have you concluded?" "That the Korthax way was wrong." The words came slowly, as if each one cost the commander something. "We believed that strength was everything, that the purpose of existence was to dominate others, but you showed us a different path. Your soldiers were not strong because they did not feel fear. They were strong because they fought for something greater than themselves." Stone was silent, waiting for Vexthal to continue. "I have been speaking with some of your prisoners," the Korthax said. "The ones we captured in our initial invasion before your counterattack. They told me about their lives, their families, their hopes. I had never thought of other species as having such things. We were taught to see everyone else as prey or predator, nothing more. And now I understand why your soldiers fought so hard. They were not protecting territory or resources. They were protecting the things that made their lives meaningful." Vexthal looked down at his armored hands. "The Korthax have never had such things. Our culture is built on war and conquest. We do not form bonds the way your species does." "That does not have to be permanent," Stone said. "Cultures can change. People can learn new ways of living." "Yes, I believe you are right." Vexthal reached into a pouch at his side and withdrew a small object. It was a blade, ancient and worn, but still sharp. "This was my command blade. It has been in my family for 30 generations. Every supreme commander of my lineage has carried it into battle." He held it out to Stone. "I want you to have it." Stone hesitated. "I do not understand." "This blade represents the old way, the way of conquest and domination. I am choosing to let it go, to start a new path for my people." Vexthal pressed the blade into Stone's hands. "Keep it as a reminder that even the most warlike species can learn to change." Stone accepted the blade with both hands, recognizing the significance of the gesture. "I will keep it safe, and I hope that one day humans and Korthax can be allies instead of enemies." "Perhaps we can," Vexthal said. "Perhaps we can." The following year saw changes that few would have predicted. The Korthax Dominion, once the most feared military power in the galaxy, began to transform. Vexthal implemented reforms that would have been unthinkable before the war. Korthax warriors were encouraged to seek purpose beyond combat. Trade relations were established with other species. Some Korthax even traveled to other worlds to learn different ways of life. Not all Korthax accepted the changes. There were protests, even a brief uprising by traditionalists who believed Vexthal had betrayed their heritage. But the Supreme Commander stood firm, supported by those who had seen the consequences of the old ways. On Earth, the veterans of the campaign returned to their normal lives. Captain Rodriguez went back to training new Marines, teaching them the lessons she had learned in combat. Master Sergeant Tanaka retired from active duty and began working with refugee populations from the liberated colonies. Private Washington, now a sergeant himself, continued serving in the military, carrying forward the traditions of those who had fought beside him. General Stone retired from active command but remained as an advisor to the United Earth military. He kept Vexthal's blade in a display case in his office, a reminder of what the war had meant. Ambassador Chen Wei continued her work at the Galactic Council, where humanity's reputation had been transformed by the war. Species that had once dismissed humans as too weak or too primitive now sought their friendship and their guidance. The ambassador who had stood alone in the corner of the chamber now stood at its center. 5 years after the end of the war, the Galactic Council issued a formal declaration recognizing humanity's contribution to galactic peace. The document cited not just their military prowess but their capacity for compassion, their willingness to accept surrenders, their treatment of prisoners, and their commitment to rebuilding what had been destroyed. They showed us that true strength is not about destruction, the declaration read. It is about protecting the innocent, honoring your word, and giving former enemies the chance to become friends. In the years that followed, whenever a crisis arose somewhere in the galaxy, the first question asked was often the same. What will the humans do? Because everyone knew that Earth warriors were not just feared for their fighting ability. They were respected for their principles, their unity, and their stubborn refusal to give up on the possibility of a better future. The Deathworld species had shown the galaxy what they were capable of, not just destruction but creation, not just war but peace, not just fear but hope. And the galaxy would never see them the same way again. In a small garden on the restored Theta station, a monument stood to those who had fallen in the liberation. Human names were carved alongside the names of colonists from a dozen species who had died during the occupation. At the base of the monument, a simple inscription read, "They did not ask where we came from. They only asked what we were willing to fight for." It was, perhaps, the best summary of what the war had meant. Not a triumph of one species over another, but a reminder that courage and compassion could be found anywhere, in any form, among any people willing to stand up for what was right. The Deathworld warriors had earned their fearsome reputation, but they had also earned something more valuable, the respect and gratitude of a galaxy that had learned to see them not as fragile creatures from a dangerous world, but as friends, allies, and protectors of all who needed their help. And that, in the end, was a victory worth fighting for.